I'm Marc Glimcher. I'm the president of the Pace Gallery, and founded by my father in 1960, and this is my 35th year. A family background was a guarantee for failure for a very long time. I think those of us who are in the second generation are not really at an advantage at all. There's no history of us succeeding. But as the art world has changed and become more institutionalized, it is possible for us in the second generation to have a place. For most of the history of the art world, each gallery was a personality cult of the founder. So I think it's interesting that now I have many colleagues who are the second generation. This was not possible a generation ago. I feel that the galleries have learned a lot from the museums. As the galleries become more interested in a larger public, as the public for the demand for the art is greater and greater from a wider number of people, and the artist must approach a very large group of people, not just the collectors. The galleries will naturally become more museum-like as their programming changes. And we take a lot of ideas from the museums, as many as we can. However, I believe in a sharp line between the museums and the galleries. I don't believe that all bets are off. I still think the museum is there to make a determination for history, whether this artist is valid, that artist is important, to rewrite the histories and so forth. Our job is to advocate for our artists. Their job is to decide who's right. It is not just a marketing practice, like we're going to take over the museums and we're going to take over journalism. I don't believe in that at all. I think it is crucial that we remain absolutely separate from those nonprofit institutions and especially from journalism. I think that the galleries don't have any place becoming involved in journalism. We're the subject, we are the advocates, we are the biased parties. I am completely biased towards my artists. There's no place for me making anything that even appears journalistic. Or their question is, the institutions, they need money from the galleries and so forth. That's true. Galleries are providing funding for museums. It's not good. Unfortunately, corporations are no longer doing that job. And frankly, we galleries can't really afford to do what those big corporations did. But we try to help. The assumption then is that we're going to buy a show, that we're going to make it possible for the show. I don't think that's true. I hope that's not happening. When the museum has decided we're going to have an exhibition of your artist, we need some help from you. Pay for the party, pay for something like that. We're happy to do it. But again, anything that starts to be like the museum is going to make a decision based on anything that is favorable to that gallery, I think we have to avoid at all costs. So I say it all the time, like all bets are not off. There are still structures and norms in our world. There is still a critical dialogue going on where some people advance one position and others are in an unbiased situation where they can make a determination. When we lose that, It's just fashion. Not a charity, as I said. Okay, this is a business. And business is not kind always. It's not constructed to be charitable in any way. It's competitive. However, we believe very strongly that the small and medium-sized galleries are a critical part of our ecosystem. That we do have the power, the larger galleries do have the power to be too destructive to that ecosystem. And not for charitable reasons, we'll all suffer. Without those galleries, without those personalities, without those relationships with the artists, we'll all end up suffering. When the talent agency business consolidated in the 1980s from hundreds of talent agencies to 5, movies changed. There was a certain richness that was lost in the businesses that those agencies were part of. Things got oversimplified. We see, the same movie, the same play, the same actor. There was a diversity that got lost. They've fought back very hard in the motion picture and theater world to reestablish that in new ways, and they have to some extent. We believe it's in our best interest to collaborate and support the galleries that found and worked with these artists for the early decades of their lives and not create a zero-sum equation where we have to win and they have to lose. We believe in the end we'll all suffer for that. If we find some fantastic artist doing so well, they have a gallery they've been working with since they were young, they need a bigger platform, they need access to a greater world, we find a way to work with that gallery, keep that gallery involved with that artist. That's what the artist wants. There are artists that don't want that. They're done with that, whatever, they've moved on. But there are so many artists who want to continue to work with the people they grew up with. And if we, as big galleries, face them with a choice like, you can't. We need to control everything. We need all your production. We need, if we turn it into some kind of zero-sum equation, it's bad business in the long run. And it's no fun either, because these are great personalities that are out there. We work with so many great artists, and we work with the galleries that they've been working with since they were kids. Seems to be there's a little less money for everybody at the end of the day, but it's a situation where the artist, it's what's best for the artist, and that is definitely our priority. Are not affecting us yet, but who knows? All they have to do is have a bad day, and they will start affecting us. Clearly, what you can see here is that the atmosphere for the connection of Asian and Western communities is not as good as it was 3 years ago. There are many less people here from Asia. People in Asia are concerned about collecting, about appearing, to be collectors. Anything that breaks down global connectivity, in my opinion, is a negative thing. But the art world is decidedly globalist. And even though it has had national centers and so forth, it always really has been. So our perspective in that is that we The US administration, if you can even call it that, the Chinese administration, all these governments are taking a great leap backwards in the last 5 years. And it's had a negative impact on our world. Because I do believe in selling online. What I don't believe, and we love selling online, we think it's great, okay? What I don't believe is that online retail sales represents a disruptive force for the art business. For the retail business, it was a huge disruptor. For us, it is not a disruptor, okay? It will not disrupt our mode of business because the art business is the original experience economy. We invented it. The Sistine Chapel is the greatest example, of the experience economy. And so that component will never leave art. The component of experiencing the artwork, experience it next to someone you've never met before, that means we're not going to be disrupted by online sales. For some time, people maybe thought we're in the retail business. We're not in the retail business. And the only disruptors are the artists. And they are coming to disrupt what we're doing. Not some, I love artsy. I'm an investor in artsy. But artsy is not going to disrupt the art world. The artists will. I'm not sure. Obviously, cryptocurrency is having a tough couple of years, although it had a great month last month. The question about cryptocurrency is really about the blockchain. When you hear about the blockchain in the art world, it's a code. It's a code for people saying our system of commerce is not trustworthy or transparent. And what they really mean by saying art and the blockchain is to say, we fundamentally can't trust you art dealers or any system where some individual is the holder of knowledge and because they're credible, we believe you. Anyone who manages a market thinks that's absurd and that there should be a transparent and understandable, should be a machine deciding what's real and what's not a person. This is very understandable, and I think we have to watch very carefully when it is appropriate to create those kinds of credible standards. We rely on very archaic systems. I think this could be great. So this could change the art world. The idea of tokenizing art, the fact that it's cryptocurrency is not the issue. The real question is whether art will ever be sold fractionally and truly bought and sold as an investment. And this Gottlieb turned into 10,000 tokens of which there is a free and open market. I was in a lecture once where they said, is fractional ownership, they're talking about it, and I turned to the audience, I said, how many people does this make you cringe when you hear about it? Everybody raised their hand. Art people don't like that idea that there could be fractional ownership, and in our work it's, a sacred thing that you should own because you love, et cetera, et cetera. I completely agree with that. I don't, on the other hand, think that would be destructive to our world and our way of honoring art if a broader market was able to own art. Something interesting could evolve from that, and I don't see that as being potentially so terrible, so destructive. Now, how's that all going to happen? I don't know, but it all comes down to the dealers. The dealers now control the way the market is constructed. The auction houses function exactly like dealers. They are not an unbiased marketplace. They're trying to sell art just like we are. Okay, so there is no New York Stock Exchange of art, and the collectors and the people who have such a huge investment in art, much bigger than us, the art dealers, could turn around and say, we want to change the rules. Okay, this is a very old-fashioned system where the rules are not written by the people with all the gold. That's the golden rule. Whoever has the gold makes the rules. So we don't have that. There is no investment bank of art. But we shouldn't be too cocky as dealers because we really don't have as much power as we think. And the artists and the collectors and the museums, if they so desire, can rewrite the rules whenever they want. Yes, we do. We have power and we have responsibility. But we also have awareness of the limits of those. And we are staying alert to what those changes are and embrace them. We're very interested. Again, mostly, we're much less interested in those innovations in the art market. We're much more interested in the innovations in art. And that is where I believe all the disruption, all the change, and all the evolution will come from. There's no bank that owns $40 billion worth of art, right? There's $6 trillion worth of art in the world. There's $60 billion worth of art that's sold every year. In the rest of the world, a marketplace like that, there are entities that own vast storehouses of value. Our vast storehouses of value are called museums. And the work is no longer available for sale, with some small exceptions. So we don't have a bank. We have great, amazing collectors who are the closest thing we have to that system. And so it's just a 19th century, 17th century system that we still have in place, which is fine. But you have to know it. You have to know that that's what you're dealing with and that it can change. It's not regulated. It's the last great unregulated market. And there's something beautiful about that. See, art is the great, transformation of the spiritual into the physical by human beings. We know that. It's also a metaphor for our ability to agree, right? So this has no value. It has no utility. I can't eat it, I can't sleep in it, I can't drive it to work. And yet we value it. We value it because we agree. There's nothing else except a group agreement about its intrinsic and non-physical value. That is so important that exists in our world. It has to be a group agreement. It may seem like a few players, but if it's just a few people who agree, it goes away. The group agreement of the value of Picasso is one of the spectacular things in the history of man, that we can all agree that this person's ideas have physical value, that we will trade the ability to buy food or shelter for the ability to live with or put it in a museum or hold up this piece of cloth with colored dust rubbed on it. So the fact that we have an old-fashioned market system attached to this old-fashioned idea of this sort of mystical value, I think is a beautiful thing. It will change and evolve, and that's okay, and we have to be ready for that. But, money, dollar bill, a euro, it's a takeoff on art. Paper money is just a copy of this idea that we could agree that something was great. So much of our society or civilization is based on this ability which feels very thin right now in the world, for people to agree on value, on greatness, is fundamental to the way we stay together. So if that's old-fashioned, then we hope it stays. It should be tough. Listen, it was tough for my father, okay? His father, I hate to tell a sob story like this, but my father was an art student in Boston. His father died, they were broke. His brother told him, you can't be a painter, we have no money, you need to get a job. They borrowed from friends $2,400 and he rented a basement on Newbury Street in Boston. He called all his friends at art school and said, I have to do a job, I need to be an art dealer, send me your paintings, I'll sell them for you. Okay? He got very good at it. We moved to New York. Leo Castelli took over. We went totally broke. He had to go out to California, find new artists. He had to do this, do that, struggle, put his entire life into it. No one handed it to him like it was handed to me. It's not, and you know, great galleries are created and become great for a reason. It's not a scam. It is somebody's life force, whether they had some money to start with or not. You can't fake it. And so it's not fair, but it's not supposed to be fair. We're all struggling to be a part of this thing. And believe me, the big galleries will come and go too. Okay, they always have. Except this one, maybe. No, just kidding. But it's okay. It's okay for people to struggle. It's not okay for people to destroy something that's beautiful. I wake up every day and fake it till I make it. Oh my God. We're pushing it as hard as we can.